This lovely manhwa is titled Princess Who Hides Her Fandom. If you love stories like this, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next episode. She recognized him the moment she saw him. She was standing in front of her dream man, Kylo, the man she had only read about in books, the man she never imagined she would meet in real life. But the confusing part was what happened next. As soon as she got close, she slapped him. Her body moved on its own. She couldn't believe she was slapping the one man she adored, and she couldn't stop it. Her hands kept moving no matter how much she tried to hold them back. She slapped him 3 times in a row. It all started when she saw a post on social media that asked, "What would you do if you were in a story with your favorite character?" She got so excited that her legs wiggled as she typed her answer. She wrote that she would kidnap them and keep them in her room, feed them delicious food, pat their heads, and let them play and relax in her arms forever with no worries. But she had no idea that she would actually get to see him one day, and instead of getting the chance to kidnap him like she dreamed, here she was, slapping him right across his pretty face. Kylo grabbed her wrist and she froze. She yelled at him to let go while deep down her fangirl heart was begging him not to release her. Then her lady's voice shouted, "How dare you touch me with those filthy hands?" She wanted to scream. How could she call her favorite's hands filthy? She should be grateful to even breathe the same air as him. How could they put her in a situation like this? She cried inside. How could they reincarnate her into a novel and then make this happen? She couldn't even control her own actions. She kept hoping it was all a dream. It had to be a dream. Then suddenly she fainted and collapsed right into his arms. Kylo let out a frustrated sigh, saying there was no one worse than her. Princess Agnes Saint was described in many ways. Some called her the most cherished gem, others called her the queen of the social scene, and of course, she was known as the most beautiful woman on the continent. But she also carried one more title, the ticking time bomb of the imperial family. It just happened that this same Agnes was now slapping Kylo at a commemorating banquet, and all because she was drunk. Kylo realized it too the moment he got close to her. She reeked of alcohol. Right then, her people rushed over, asking Kylo if he was all right. Of course he wasn't. He had just been slapped several times for absolutely no reason. Kylo didn't argue. He didn't complain. He simply handed her over to them and told them to take her back to her palace at once. Then he walked away, silent and frustrated, and the air around them felt painfully heavy. Morning came, and she finally woke up. For a moment, she truly believed everything had been a dream, but as soon as she opened her eyes and faced the same reality again, she didn't know what to do. Deep down, she was happy. At least she would get to be with her Kylo. But at the same time, she was wrecked. How could she reincarnate into a new world and then slap her favorite person only to get dragged away right after? It had all started the day she got into an accident in her world. She died instantly. Before her death, she was annoyed because she died while returning from her favorite character's birthday cafe. Meeting a god right after was even more shocking. The being told her she had been brought there for something important. The goddess who watched over the world apologized and explained that she wasn't supposed to die yet. There had been an error in the newly created soul collection system. She was stunned. She asked the goddess really meant that her death was a mistake, and the goddess calmly said yes. She looked at the goddess closely, wondering if she was even real. Then she begged to be sent back immediately. But the goddess apologized again, saying her physical body had already decayed, so returning was impossible. The girl's mind spun. How could they kill her by mistake? She cried and sighed, thinking that if she had known she would die like that, she wouldn't have saved her fanfics for later. She dropped to the ground, imagining all the merch she ordered that would never reach her. Just then, the goddess spoke again. Since the mistake was fully her fault, she would take responsibility. "How about you start a new life in a new place of your choice?" the goddess offered. "It can be a real world or a fictional one. It doesn't matter. Is there somewhere you want to be reborn?" Without a second thought, she answered. She wanted to meet her favorite character. She asked to meet her favorite character, not to slap him. How could they put her in a situation like this? This was why people always said to be very specific with your wishes. Still, at least she saw him. As she stood in front of the mirror, she studied her new face. Light purple hair, light purple eyes, a sharp feline look. That was when she knew she was doomed. She had become Agnes Saint, the villain of the novel Infinite Splash. The story was about the overpowered male protagonist, Raymond Spencer, who fought demons. It was so popular on social media that fans called it the ultimate geek unification, pulling in passionate followers from every genre. In the novel, Agnes Saint was nothing more than a wild fangirl chasing after the protagonist, Raymond. If only that was the worst of it, calling her innocent would be lying, a big lie. At this point, anyone would wonder how bad she really was to not even deserve the word innocent. And the answer came fast. At the end of the war celebration yesterday, Agnes, with her trashy personality, opened her mouth and said the most outrageous things. She insulted the knights who had just ended the Great War, calling them parasites, feeding on Sir Spencer's reputation while wasting military funds. But she didn't stop there. She got even more drunk and stormed into the Black Knights area, yelling at them and calling them lowly creatures who caused trouble for Spencer. She made a huge scene, and the one who stepped in to stop her was Kylo. Kylo, the Black Knights leader, a former street mercenary, Spencer's eternal rival in this world. Agnes got angry the moment she saw him. She yelled, asking if they really sent someone like him to give her orders. Him, Kylo, the nemesis of Agnes Saint. Kylo hated Raymond with a burning jealousy, all because of his own inferiority complex about his origins. Every time he met Raymond, he would throw curses and insults without hesitation. Because of this, Agnes and Kylo were ranked the top 2 villains in the whole story, the arrogant princess and the foul-tempered knight commander. These two didn't just dislike each other, they despised each other. She couldn't understand why she, the biggest Kylo fan in her past life, had to be reborn as Princess Agnes of all people. She felt tears well up as she regretted everything. If only she had made her wish properly, now everything was a mess. How was she supposed to chase after Kylo in this body when everyone in this world knew that Agnes used to like Raymond? 2 days after her reincarnation, something strange happened. After the incident with Kylo, her body suddenly began to move on its own. She kept wondering why the goddess said she would reincarnate her when this was clearly possession. Her mind was now filled with vivid memories of living as Agnes from childhood until now. And those memories, they were useful, yes, but also full of moments where Agnes used vulgar words on her favorite person. But she pushed that aside. Right now, she has to start her new life properly. Her maids were stunned by her sudden change in behavior. She told them she caused trouble at the Knights Hall yesterday and needed to meet Kylo. She asked where he was. Deep down, she was ready to do anything just to get close to him. Her maid panicked, demanding to know why she wanted to meet Kylo again. The woman's expression clearly said, "Haven't you done enough already?" Her maid quickly added that Kylo was wrong for laying hands on her, but Princess Agnes should please refrain from cutting his wrist. Hearing that, she froze. Just what kind of monster did they think she was? She asked them why they were saying such cruel things when she only wanted to meet him. Agnes felt excited. She could finally meet Kylo properly, but everyone around her was acting as if she were about to start a war, all because he stopped her from getting drunk. Kylo belonged to the Black Knights. The imperial family of this empire originated with 4 knight orders. The Blue Knights, warriors chosen not by status but by pure skill. The White Knights, elites with both strong ability and noble blood. The Red Knights are powerful wizards with excellent magical talent. And the Black Knights, a group of troublemakers. Their skills were unmatched, but they were unpredictable ruffians, known as the Warhounds, who stood at the very front lines and attacked without hesitation. Agnes thought to herself that this reputation wasn't too harsh, considering the cases of embezzlement and disorderly conduct they had caused. Because of this image, the entire Knight Order was often discriminated against, and Kylo, as their leader, was lonely. Somehow his loneliness overlapped with hers, and she helplessly fell for him in her past life. Back in school, she tried everything to promote her favorite character, Kylo, but it never worked. Everyone was too obsessed with Raymond. No matter how hard she tried, Kylo got no attention compared to the overpowered protagonist. Then one day, the first part of the novel was completed, and something big happened. They didn't win the war. The Emperor was shocked. Not only did they fail, but monsters began pouring into the civilian areas. In fear, they consulted the High Priest, and the temple revealed the truth behind the disaster. To end everything, they needed to eliminate the source of the crack at the top of the snowy mountain. But the problem was clear. Only a few people in the world had the ability to destroy that source. And the 2 strongest individuals in the entire empire were among them. Raymond Spencer possessed both exceptional intelligence and incredible physical strength. Kylo Grey, on the other hand, had experience and combat power that surpassed his lack of tactical training. This meant that one of the skilled fighters would have to sacrifice their life. No one expected Kylo to step forward, but he did. He chose to go in place of the protagonist. As his fan, she couldn't understand it at first. Why him of all people? Why would he step forward to die? Then she realized the truth. Kylo despised Raymond so much, yet he knew the reason. Every time a war ended, people praised Raymond and celebrated him, showering him with love while forgetting the others who fought by his side. No matter how hard Kylo tried, he could never become a hero like Raymond. And in that world, a true hero must never die. So Kylo made the choice. He left a note behind and went alone to the source of the rift. He sacrificed his life to bring peace back to the Empire. Only in death could Kylo become a hero. But his story didn't end there. The original author revealed Kylo's appearance on social media, and the world went wild, including her. Kylo instantly became popular, gained countless fans, and even had a birthday cafe opened in his honor. But what was the point if he was dead? She had also died while returning from that very cafe. Now, dressed and ready to meet Kylo in her new life, Agnes made up her mind. She would change his future and pave a path of flowers in his life. But when she opened the door to his office, shock froze her in place. Kylo was there, all tied up and on his knees. She immediately yelled, asking what was happening. A knight replied that the chief chamberlain had ordered his restraint to prepare for her visit, ensuring he could not escape or resist. Agnes's eyes flared with anger. She commanded them to release him immediately, insisting it wasn't necessary. The proud white knights were left stunned. She shoved one of them and demanded Kylo be freed, and they obeyed, running off after. Agnes felt a strange mix of satisfaction and frustration. She had been trying to normalize things around her, but somehow the situation kept getting worse. Kylo spoke up, his voice calm but firm. He told her to cut it off already, saying he was ready to accept the punishment for daring to lay hands on the princess. Agnes froze, her heart racing. Cut it off, she thought. How could she even think of cutting something so precious to him? Seeing her hesitation, Kylo pushed further. Then cut off my neck instead, he said. Deep down, she knew that was far worse. Then he asked if she'd be satisfied if he took off his knight uniform. Her eyes went wide. Does he mean his bare chest? Of course, that would be the ultimate heart-melting moment for any fangirl. Kylo noticed the expression on her face and immediately corrected himself. Leaving the knights, he said quickly. Agnes felt her face heat up. Not only would she now be seen as a troublemaker in his eyes, but also a pervert? She told him they should forget everything that happened yesterday. Kylo looked shocked. Are you serious? He asked. Agnes quickly looked away, too nervous to meet his gaze. She turned to leave, knowing she had so much she wanted to say to him. But how could he ever listen to a woman who had slapped him yesterday? He would definitely think she was crazy if she showed any affection. Still, she couldn't stop thinking of him as delicate, like a fragile cat. She made up her mind. From now on, she would approach him slowly and carefully. To do that, she had to act normal, keep her feelings in check, and gradually win his trust and heart. After she left, Kylo got up, frowning. Why had the princess come to see him, if not to punish him? He was sure she would at least kick him out of the knights. After all, it wouldn't have ended with just cutting off his wrist. But instead, she had let everything go. He paused, trying to understand. What could she be thinking this time? He realized he had never seen this side of her before. Who had thought the princess had an innocent side? Who would imagine that, he wondered, a small smile forming on his lips. He felt like he had just won a point just for seeing her like that. A few days later, after her meeting with Kylo, Agnes pretended to be sick and stayed in the princess's palace. She needed time to organize her thoughts and the plot of the original story in her head. She considered how she would approach Kylo from now on, but after the outrageous incident at the last party, her reputation was sinking fast. Rumors spread that the princess herself insulted those who had risked their lives in battle. In this situation, no matter how carefully she approached Kylo, the public opinion would still affect him negatively. She wondered if there was any excuse she could use. Just then, there was a knock at the door. A messenger informed her that the Emperor had summoned her. Agnes felt a wave of sadness. In the end, everything was happening just like in the novel. And now, she was about to be expelled from the imperial palace. The empire, ruled by the Saint family, the family she now belonged to, had developed the only weapon capable of fighting demons, the magical pools. These tools not only brought peace to the continent, but also gave the family immense power. At the very top of that power stood the Emperor, Alexander Saint, Agnes's father. Agnes stood before him, their eyes locked, and neither spoke a word. Behind his firm expression, the Emperor's heart ached. Deep down, he worried about his precious daughter. He was an extremely doting father. Muttering anxiously to himself, he admitted that he couldn't always cover for her mistakes. But what else could he do? She looked so much like his deceased wife, and that thought weakened him. Agnes noticed his silent suffering. She knew he had endured a lot because of her actions, and she understood that the only way he could deal with her ruined reputation was through what he was about to say. Finally, the Emperor spoke. He told her she must be aware of the rumors spreading about her in social circles, and until her reputation settled, she would have to leave the capital. This was exactly how Princess Agnes's expulsion happened in the novel. Back then, readers had found it satisfying, but for her, it was a disaster. If she were expelled, she wouldn't be able to meet Kylo. Determined, Agnes spoke up immediately. She refused. She even used the fact that she looked exactly like his late wife to test how far this doting father would go in exiling her. Oops, not even the Emperor can escape the woes of parenting. The Emperor warned her that if she didn't comply, he would have to make another decision. Would she be okay with that? Agnes replied without hesitation. She would accept any punishment, as long as it didn't involve leaving the capital. She was ready to work in the servants' quarters, volunteer at the temple, anything. The Emperor made his bold decision. "You'll be appointed as a mage of the Black Knights," he declared. Agnes froze. Did she hear that right? Her face instantly lit up with joy. She couldn't believe it. The Emperor thought it was a punishment, unaware that this was her greatest wish. Without a second thought, she accepted. The Emperor was shocked. He had never imagined his daughter agreeing so easily. In the Saint family, most were born with immense magical power. It was customary for them to join the White Knights, like Damien, the crown prince and Agnes's older brother. Agnes herself had never gone on a mission because she found it bothersome. She had technically been a member of the White Knights, but now they were sending her to the Black Knights to be with Kylo, just as she had wanted. She told the Emperor to change her affiliation immediately. She would go there no matter what. The Emperor panicked. He couldn't believe his daughter was acting this way, and immediately called for the doctor. Agnes, unable to hide her excitement, whispered to herself, "Just wait, you'll call for my charm." She finally had an excuse to see her favorite every single day. Before long, the news had spread everywhere. People were buzzing with complaints about His Majesty going too far this time, sending his own daughter to the Black Knights. It was the first time in history something like this had happened. Even with her strange personality, she was still a young girl. Some said it was her karma and that she deserved it, but others argued it would be a huge inconvenience for the crown prince, her older brother. Many concluded that she would never show herself in public again, especially since she was banned from banquets for the time being. Sir Sirius Melville of the White Knights entered the hall. Hearing everyone gossiping about the princess, he exhaled with stress. "People really do love talking about others," he muttered. Hugo Rodian, also a member of the White Knights, replied, "It's not the first time nobles have been talking about her." Sirius shook his head and walked away. "I can't stand here and listen to this," he thought. Hugo watched him go and silently judged, saying Sirius is such a pervert pretending to be a gentleman. Just then, Diana Lennox, vice captain of the White Knights, arrived. "Where is Sirius?" she asked. Beside Diana stood Hazel Devon, also of the White Knights, and the top candidate for female protagonist. Hugo explained to Diana what Sirius had said, that he couldn't stay and listen to such a legitimate crisis about the princess. Diana, who had been Damien's childhood friend, nodded in support of Sirius. "It isn't pleasant hearing people talk about Agnes," she said. At that moment, St. Liliana appeared in the gathering. "What interesting thing are you all talking about?" she asked. Liliana was the second candidate for female protagonist. Hugo bowed respectfully to her. "It's about Princess Agnes," he said. Liliana gasped. "I never expected the Emperor to make such a decision." Of course, everyone was equally surprised. St. Liliana had originally been a commoner. One morning, she received a revelation and became a saint. Beautiful, yet once powerless and without status, she had never enjoyed the favorable gazes of others. She had been ignored, ridiculed by arrogant nobles, and even flirted with at times. But everything changed after she completely cured several demonized nobles. Suddenly, she was adored and praised like never before. Liliana gradually began yearning for something higher, something greater than simple admiration. Hugo Rodian, heir to the Duke of Rodian, was a man with a strong reputation among the knights, but there was one problem. He was madly in love with Liliana. He could never see her as wrong. At the same time, he felt it was pointless to show his love openly because every man around her seemed to admire her just as much as he did. Liliana, however, often spoke out of turn without realizing it. She stood firm in the belief that Princess Agnes disliked her and even gained pity from that perception. She always tried to make Saint Devon look wrong because she saw her as a rival. To Liliana, only 2 men in the Empire were worthy of her attention: Damien, the Crown Prince, and Raymond Spencer, the protagonist of the story. Just then, an announcement came. Spencer had entered. He walked forward toward them. Liliana rushed to him, quickly explaining that they had been talking about Princess Agnes and how Saint Devon, who hadn't even spoken a word, seemed completely at ease about the situation. Spencer looked surprised. "Why is Saint Devon pleased about it?" he asked. Liliana painted Devon as the bad fruit among them and apologized for still not adjusting to the noble's way of speaking. The men in the gathering didn't see her as wrong at all, but Diana could see that Liliana was clearly trying to keep everyone in check, while Hugo, oblivious as ever, was no better than a fool. Meanwhile, Agnes was at the center of all the commotion. Her maid Daisy had been shocked when she heard that her lady would become a mage of the Black Knights. "Why would His Majesty do this to you?" she asked. "What if Kylo decides to persecute you?" Agnes thought about it too. Kylo hated her. Maybe he could use this opportunity to make her life miserable. But deep down, she didn't think it would be that bad either. Daisy suddenly noticed that the princess's cheeks were red. Not realizing she was blushing because of her own thoughts, she asked worriedly, "Are you suddenly having a fever? Should I call a doctor? Should I tell the Majesty that you're sick so he'll cancel the affiliation?" Agnes waved her off. She was glad at least one of her maids wasn't scared of her. She assured Daisy that there was no real harm the Black Knights could do to her. After all, they had won the war. There shouldn't be much for them to do now. Daisy calmed down, muttering, "Somehow that's true." Agnes groaned and rubbed her head. She said, "Just go already. My head hurts." Meanwhile, the people of the Empire were still intoxicated with the joy of winning the war against the devil. They had no idea that peace would not last long. The fair part was that Agnes was now here. She knew exactly when and where the demons would appear, and she planned to do everything possible to prevent the massive loss of life that would occur in 6 months in the Eastern region. She had already decided to give all the credit to Kylo, imagining him being praised and celebrated. Just as she was lost in her daydreams, Daisy announced the presence of the Crown Prince. Agnes's heart skipped a beat. She muttered, "Why is he here without telling me?" The Crown Prince didn't smile. He called her the same, always welcoming him with rude greetings. Earlier, Damien had met with their father, the Emperor, and complained about his sister acting strangely. The doctor claimed she was fine, but Damien was baffled. She hadn't made a fuss about missing the party last night, and unbelievably, she had agreed to affiliate with the Black Knights. Damien already knew his sister was out of his mind, but their father panicked. He worried that she might have been possessed by some weird magic book that was trending in society lately. Damien tried to calm him, insisting that she hadn't gone completely crazy, but the Emperor was insistent. She was the only daughter he had, and he had to check on her himself. That is why the Crown Prince was here today. Seeing her now, Damien realized that nothing seemed strange. He turned to Daisy, confirmed her identity, and asked her to leave. He wanted to speak to his sister alone. Daisy left, and as soon as the door shut, Damien turned to Agnes, calling her name coldly. "How long are you going to worry His Majesty?" he asked. "If you continue like this, you won't find a good marriage, even if you become queen." Agnes stayed quiet, listening as Damien scolded her about tarnishing the imperial family's image. He reminded her that their father adored her and that she needed to do well in the Black Knights. Seeing her silence, he pressed, "Answer me. Will you behave?" He imagined her cursing him like she always did, but instead, Agnes quietly replied, "Yes, brother." Damien froze, shocked. He couldn't believe she had answered so obediently. Agnes wondered why he looked so surprised. Hadn't she just answered exactly as he wanted? Damien cleared his throat, trying to act normal, and reminded her not to forget the promise she had just made. Agnes felt happy. In this life, she finally had a family she had never had before, yet she couldn't help but think her brother was unlucky. He was kind and friendly to everyone except his younger sister. Of course, he would be annoyed. She had done plenty of things no one would approve of, chasing after a handsome knight without hesitation, skipping her duties, drinking at parties, and causing chaos everywhere. It was obvious she wouldn't find a good marriage. What kind of man would want all that? Damien left in his airship, flying high into the sky. Agnes wished she could follow him to experience what it was like to ride in a traditional fantasy steampunk airship, but she held back. Tomorrow was the day she would officially join the Black Knights, and she couldn't let anything distract her from that. Princess Agnes was fussed into her uniform by Daisy, and she couldn't help but thinking to herself how much better it looked than the White Knight's uniform. She felt her cheeks heat up, blushing as the uniform gave off a strange couple vibe with Kylo. Her maids were confused. One wanted to compliment her on how good the uniform looked, but the other was scared she might shout for even suggesting it, lowering her to the level of the Black Knights. Agnes immediately turned to them with a sly smile. "Do you think it looks good on me?" The maids shocked, then nodded, telling her it did. Agnes grinned, full of pride. She bragged that she was good at everything. She didn't even need to ask. One maid hesitated and asked if she really didn't mind being a Black Knight. Agnes replied thoughtfully, I can't keep doing whatever I please forever. Now is the time to show my virtue as a member of the imperial family. With that, she left excitedly, eager to show Kylo how much she had changed. It felt really good. Back at the Black Knight's headquarters, one of Kylo's knights asked, Do you really think Princess Agnes will come today? I bet she won't. Kylo thought about it quietly, recalling his recent meeting with His Majesty, the Emperor. The Emperor had told him how Agnes had lost her mother as a young girl. Growing up, rumors had painted her as selfish and unfit to be a healer. But the truth was far different. Princess Agnes was fragile, terrified of meeting patients whose symptoms reminded her of her mother. When her nanny died, she had almost collapsed herself. The Emperor admitted he had been too soft on his daughter, but couldn't help it. Treating her was even harder than handling political affairs. Kylo had originally thought the Emperor called him to warn him not to treat the princess carelessly, but instead, the Emperor had shocked him. He said he couldn't allow her to live like that anymore. Since Kylo had proven himself on the front lines, fighting demons, the Emperor entrusted him with controlling Agnes. He told Kylo to make her taste the bitterness of life. Kylo asked, Do you mean I shouldn't give her any preferential treatment? If possible, the Emperor had replied. The order stunned Kylo. At that moment, he realized the imperial authority of this generation was unprecedentedly powerful. This is his chance, he thought, to finally return his contempt for the queen. He told his knight that he didn't expect Agnes to come anyway. Just then, an announcement came. The princess had arrived. The knights were shocked. They called for her to enter. And she did, making her entrance look stunningly beautiful. Kylo's eyes fixed on her. Standing there in her Black Knight uniform, he wondered quietly to himself, did she really come here on her own? Kylo smirked, guessing that she hadn't fully understood what was going on. He decided to enlighten her. His Majesty has ordered me not to treat you any less or higher than the others. So, coming here in that uniform means you're truly ready to submit to the rules. Agnes lowered her gaze, replying softly, I'll forget about the selfishness of the past and trust that you'll lead me without favoritism, just like the other members. Kylo raised an eyebrow, wondering if she was trying to flatter him. He signed her appointment letter and officially declared her a member of the Black Knights. Deep down, he knew something was strange about her. Kylo had grown used to people looking down on him as an illegitimate child. But Princess Agnes, she didn't ignore him. It was as if she saw through him, glimpsing at his past and making him feel utterly useless. No matter how scared she was of losing the Emperor's favor, she wasn't a woman to easily throw away her pride. Today, something about her attitude was different. Kylo couldn't help but wonder, what on earth is she thinking? Meanwhile, Agnes was quietly flattered by his sarcastic tone. How could someone be this handsome? His features were neat and priest-like, and yet his cold expression somehow harmonized perfectly. His chest was firm and strong, as if it held the power of the entire military. Even the way he wrote was beautiful. Perfect. Except for his personality. But even that, she thought, was cat-like and lovely. Watching her lady blush and daydream in front of him, Kylo mumbled to himself, she definitely has something planned up her sleeve. Then he spoke up. I'll give you your first mission. Agnes's mind immediately leapt to a fantasy. Is this our first date? Only for him to add, you're being sent to the eastern skirts, the region damaged by the war. Patrol the area and make sure no monsters remain. Not only was she being deployed for actual work, but she was going alone. Everyone in the room was shocked, including Agnes. Kylo continued, this isn't about dressing well in a uniform or admiring yourself in the mirror. The only weapon you'll take is this small pistol. Agnes stared at him, wide-eyed. This mission was going to be far more dangerous and real than anything she had imagined. How could he send a healing magician with no combat experience alone to a place where monsters might appear? Agnes felt uneasy, not because of the mission itself, but because Kylo wasn't going with her. This wasn't going to be a date, after all. Kylo guessed she might be scared, but she clearly told him she would go and come back safely. That was how she left. As the princess departed, one of the other knights asked Kylo, do you think she'll be okay? What if she encounters monsters? Kylo smiled slightly. If she really gets scared, she'll cry to His Majesty and apologize, he said. He didn't tell Jeremy, his personal knight, that the area had already been patrolled and was free of civilians or monsters. The place still bore the horrors of war, but with the princess going there, she would be tense, and just witnessing it would make her stop speaking carelessly like before. Without the Emperor's order, Kylo would never have done this to a princess who had just turned an adult. He reassured Jeremy that nothing dangerous would happen anyway. Meanwhile, Sirius Melville of the White Knights was furious when he heard the news. He stormed to Spencer, complaining that Kylo was crazy to send the princess to such a place. Spencer asked what he meant. Sirius explained, "I heard on my way here that the princess's first mission is to patrol Area A15 alone. I even tried to find out what weapon she has, only a small pistol." Spencer nodded calmly. Yes, Kylo may have caused minor problems on the battlefield, but he's not the kind of man to make a reckless decision. He knows the Emperor's wrath would fall on him if anything happened to the princess. It's obvious he sent her there on purpose, to discourage her. Sirius agreed, but added, "What if something goes wrong? What if she gets injured? That would be a huge mess." After thinking for a moment, Spencer finally decided to check on the princess himself. Sirius was pleased to hear the captain say that. As he left, he reminded Spencer to make sure Kylo understood that the White Knights weren't on the same level as the Black Knights. The door closed behind him. Spencer sighed, quietly thinking, how long will I have to take care of the princess? When he first heard of her affiliation with the Black Knights, he had been relieved, believing he'd no longer be dragged into her foolish behavior. But now, from the very first day, it seemed he was still involved. Maybe, this time too, Kylo's actions were at the request of the princess. He shook his head. He was tired of her constantly bothering him. This time, he would do whatever it took to get away from her. Meanwhile, as Agnes and Raymond were heading toward Area 15, Victor, one of the Black Knights, came to inform Kylo that he was going to finish what he had left undone in Area 15. Kylo's eyes widened in shock. He didn't finish the work yesterday? Victor explained, "I filed a preliminary report because it would have been a hassle to do it after coming back. Also, the guy we went with yesterday freaked out and said his cat was missing inside his clothes. We had to stop and return." Kylo's mind raced. I shouldn't have trusted these guys in the first place. If the search isn't finished, there will be a problem. He stood up immediately, knowing he had made a mistake. When Agnes arrived at Area 15, the guards at the gate stopped her. "What brings you here, lady?" they asked. She realized they didn't know she was coming. Seeing a Black Knight member there, they should have assumed it was for patrol, or maybe the area had already been cleared. She showed them her pass, and they let her in. The guards, however, suspected there might still be a part unreported. Agnes thought to herself, how she knew Kylo wouldn't harm her. Her Kylo might be rude, sarcastic, insecure, and lack manners, but he's not a bad cat. She smiled at the thought. He must have pulled the sneaky move just to scare me. How cute of him. Looking around, she noticed the place was a mess, but at least the residents had been evacuated in advance, so there were few casualties. People didn't choose the wrong hero, she thought. Raymond had brilliant strategies for understanding demon movements, leading almost every battle to victory. He was young, handsome, and everyone adored him. But his brilliance inevitably overshadowed the other knights. Unlike Raymond, who mainly commanded, Kylo fought on the front lines and no one acknowledged him. Agnes decided that when she returned, she'd pretend to be scared just to make him smile. Suddenly, she heard a sound behind her. She turned and saw a black figure in the distance. Could it be a monster? Her heart raced. Maybe this place really wasn't checked properly. The figure approached fast. She shut her eyes immediately, panic rising. "Kylo, come help me!" she shouted silently. Then a soft meow reached her ears. She opened her eyes and saw it was just a cat and felt relief immediately. She concluded it might be a resident pet left behind during the evacuation. Using her powers, she healed it, noticing it seemed hurt. When she was done, the cat nuzzled her and she smiled, glad it felt better. She turned to continue patrolling, the cat now following her. I'll find your owner when I'm done, she thought. But then something else appeared. Her heart sank. She knew she was in serious trouble. Slowly she turned, and it was nothing like the cat. The creature was massive, fast, and terrifying. As she stepped back, it advanced toward her. Am I about to get into serious danger? Again? Panic gripped her. The creature lunged, and she shut her eyes. Then, at the perfect moment, Kylo appeared. With a quick, precise strike, he stopped the creature in its tracks. Look at him, so handsome, she thought, eyes wide as she opened them. The creature left some mess on her face, and for a heartbeat, they just stared at each other. Are you okay? Kylo asked. Agnes couldn't find her voice. Her mind raced. She was saved by my favorite, Kylo. He explained quickly. I didn't put you in danger on purpose. There was a mistake in the report I received. He handed her a handkerchief to wipe her face. Without hesitation, she grabbed it, leaving him momentarily puzzled. She held it tightly without using the handkerchief and suddenly realized how flustered she had been. Are you hurt anywhere? He asked again. She wasn't thinking about herself. She was more concerned that she hadn't acted normal. Seeing how worried and relieved he was, she realized this Black Knight troublemaker hadn't checked the area properly before sending her. Somehow, she felt thrilled. This feels like a real date now. Rubbing her head, she suggested, let's go check the other areas together. Just then, the sound of hooves thundered behind them, and boom! Spencer appeared. Both froze. Raymond Spencer? What is he doing here? Now this is getting interesting. Could political rivals also become rivals in protecting her? Seeing the defeated creature on the ground and the faint stains on her face, Spencer stepped forward. As expected, an accident happened, he said, glancing at the mess. Kylo's eyes narrowed and he stood protectively in front of Agnes. Spencer handed her a handkerchief. Here, wipe your face, he said. Agnes took it, staring at it for a moment, before carefully dabbing her face. Kylo watched in surprise. He had given her his handkerchief earlier, but she hadn't used it. Yet now she was using Spencer's. Did she think he was dirty? He felt this wash of disappointment immediately. Spencer then reminded them, a carriage is waiting. You should head back. Kylo looked at Agnes and noticed a flicker of irritation. Maybe she was annoyed that he had made her miss a moment alone with Spencer. His expression softened, almost self-conscious. Turning to Kylo, Spencer said firmly, today will pass quietly, but something like this must not happen again. The Imperial family is not a battlefield for anyone to act recklessly. Kylo couldn't help but smile. The way Spencer spoke, it sounded as if he were the princess's husband. Hero of the Empire, why so presumptuous? His Majesty ordered me to watch over the princess. Why are you following her? Are you her nanny or something? Spencer's glare sharpened, warning him to watch his words. Kylo grinned, ignoring him. You've rejected the princess's advances many times, but now it seems quite the opposite. Without another word, Spencer turned and left. Kylo muttered under his breath, cursing him for pretending to be a noble knight, though secretly no one knew he actually dreamed of becoming the Emperor's son-in-law. Kylo promised himself he would find a way to play his own tricks on Spencer someday. Agnes sat in the carriage with Spencer, fuming quietly. Why did he have to show up here and ruin her perfect date with Kylo? It was the first time she had met Raymond since reincarnating. She admitted he was handsome, but not her type. His chest was too small, and he carried himself like a nobleman groomed to perfection. What she liked was someone wilder, rougher, someone like Kylo. All the other ladies adored Spencer, and no one was chasing Kylo. She liked it that way. So, she decided to act carefully, pretending to favor Spencer so as not to raise suspicion. He was a prized jewel, something Saint Agnes coveted, but if anyone knew she had moved on from him overnight, no one would believe it. Why did you come all the way here? She asked softly. Raymond hesitated. If he told her, she might start thinking he actually cared. I came to ask you to avoid any actions that might endanger the imperial family, he said firmly, and to stop paying so much attention to me. Focus on your responsibilities. Agnes tilted her head, feigning sadness. So you're saying I shouldn't bother you in the future, but I should act correctly. Raymond blinked, confused. She added softly, I know I've bothered you unintentionally all these years. From now on, I'll make sure I'm never in your way again. Her expression was heartbroken, as if she were letting him go forever. Perfect, she thought. Raymond looked surprised, but nodded. I'm glad to hear that. I hope you'll stay faithful to your mission from now on. I will, she replied sweetly, so you won't have to come see me again. Inwardly, she vowed Kylo would never let this ruin their date again. Agnes stepped out of the carriage without looking back, leaving Raymond to wonder if she had truly changed or if she was just pretending to be heartbroken. He sighed, questioning why he even let it bother him. It didn't matter. Back at his office, Raymond met Damien, the Crown Prince. Damien had come after hearing about the incident. Kylo Grey seems to have a grudge against the princess, Spencer said. Damien waved it off. It's not a big deal. No one got hurt. Spencer frowned slightly. After all, Agnes needs guidance, but more than that, she said she wouldn't chase me anymore. Did she really say that? Damien asked. She did, Spencer replied, though his tone lacked certainty. Damien knew his sister well. She was like a time bomb. You never knew when she might explode. This, he thought, was probably just one of her schemes to get rid of something. He also hoped Agnes would marry soon. The Empire wouldn't approve of her marrying a foreigner, so he wanted a suitable match within the Empire. Spencer seemed perfect, loyal, trusted, and a close friend. But as Spencer spoke about her bad reputation and how she tarnished the royal family's image, Damien's eyes narrowed. Those were harsh words for a stranger to say. Agnes said she wouldn't bother you again, so there's no need to criticize her in front of me, he said with a controlled smile. Raymond agreeing to that, and that was how the conversation ended. Meanwhile, in the princess's palace, her maids were stunned to see her. Chloe and Emma hurried over, asking what had happened. Her hair was messy from falling, her clothes were torn and stained all over her uniform in spots. Did you really encounter a monster on your first mission? They asked, wide-eyed. Agnes remembered that Chloe and Emma were known in their social circles for being incredibly soft-spoken. Anything she said to them now would spread like wildfire. Smiling to herself, she decided to say she had gotten into an accident during the mission and that thankfully Kylo had saved her. Perfect, she thought. This will boost her favorite's reputation. But the maids were quick to challenge her story. We heard he sent you alone. If he had done his duty properly, you wouldn't have ended up in this state, Chloe added. In every war, at least 1 or 2 black knights end up in trouble for causing chaos. I passed one of the knights building earlier, and when I saw Kylo, he glared at me with those terrifying eyes. Don't trust someone like that. Agnes exhaled, realizing she couldn't easily defend him. Kylo's reputation was just as messy as hers. I must have misunderstood, she admitted softly. But yes, he did save me. Then the maids asked the question that made her blood boil. Why did you come back with Lord Raymond Spencer? Agnes snapped. Never, ever mention Lord Raymond in front of me again. The maids froze. Did something happen? They asked cautiously. Sighing, Agnes replied, It's not something to go into. I'm just a person who's easily hurt, and I'm tired right now. She tried to appear heartbroken, letting them believe she had suffered. Perfect plan, she thought. Her cuties would definitely spread the word for her. She waved them away. Leave now. I need to rest. The maids obeyed, whispering among themselves as they left. Agnes smiled to herself, confident her little scheme was working. But things didn't go exactly as she had planned. Outside the room, Chloe and Emma whispered furiously, trying to figure out what had happened. Her princess had always loved talking about Spencer, yet now she forbade even a single word. Something must have gone wrong, they concluded. He must have used foul language on her. And just like that, a rumor was born. Word spread through the noble circles that Captain Spencer had spoken harshly to the princess and, worse, had broken her heart. Soon, Raymond Spencer was painted as a man who had driven nails into the princess's heart with unspeakable cruelty. The news even reached the emperor. Furious, he questioned it, why that ungrateful Spencer broke his daughter's heart. If the news had spread so widely, that means even our favorite knows about this, right? I'm so loving this. This is where this part of the story ends. If you love the story and you want us to continue, please comment the protagonist's name, Agnes.